Chapter 23, Strange Answers. Lawyer Plum was there in one pair of airs when Otis Amber danced into the game room. Hee, the turtle's lost its tail, I see. Turtle slumped low in her chair. Flora Baumbach thought the short, sleek haircut was adorable, especially the way it swept forward over her little chin. But Turtle did not want to look adorable. She wanted to look mean. The dressmaker fumbled past the wad of money in her handbag. Here, Alice, I thought you might like to see this. Turtle glanced at the old snapshot. It's Baba, all right, except younger, same dumb smile. Suddenly she sat upright. That's my daughter Rosalie, Flora Baumbach said. She must have been 9 or 10 when that picture was taken. Rosalie was squat and square and squinty. Her protruding tongue was too large for her mouth. Her head lolled to one side. I think I would have liked her, Baba, Turtle said. Rosalie looks like she was a very happy person. She must have been nice to be around. Thump, thump, thump. Here comes the victims, Seidel Pulaski announced. Angela greeted her sister with a wave of her crimson-streaked healing hand. Turtle had convinced her to not confess. It would mean a criminal record. It would kill her mother, and no one would believe her anyhow. I like your haircut. Thanks, Turtle replied. Now Angela had to love her forever. Most of the heirs had to comment on Turtle's hair. You look like a real businesswoman, Sandy said. Well, that's an improvement, Dinton said. You look nice, Chris said. Only Theo, bent over the chessboard, said nothing. White had moved the king's bishop since the last meeting. It was his move. At last, the stairs turned from Turtle's hair to a more surprising sight. Judge Ford strode in as regally as an African princess, her noble head swathed in a turban, her tall body draped in yards of hand-printed cloth. She slipped a note to Denton Deer and then sailed to her place at table 4. Goggle-eyed Otis Amber was speechless. They were all, except for Sandy. Gee, that's a nifty outfit, Judge. Is that what you call ethnic? The judge did not reply. Applaud! The local hero has arrived. Doug raised his arms, pointing his index fingers to the flaking gilt ceiling in the I'm number 1 sign, and acknowledged the clapping with a victory lap around the room. Here come the Wexlers, Mr. Hu remarked, seating his puzzled wife at table 1. Turtle exchanged an anxious glance with Angela. The last time they saw their mother, she was crying her head off, and now tears were gone from her bleary eyes, but she was staggering. Giggling. Her hair was a mess. Sorry we're late, Jake apologized. Who lost track of time? They had been clinking wine glasses in a small cafe. The cafe they used to go before they were married, toasting good times. They had many good times together, many good memories shared, it seems. 3 big wine bottles full. Okay, so Jake and Grace are under the influence here. Happy Grace waved at the heirs. She felt so wonderful, so overflowing with love for Jake, for everybody. Hi, Mom, Turtle called. Grace blinked at a young, short-haired girl. Who's that? Jake greeted his partner with a, How are you this fine day? Doug Wynne, replied Madam Hu. Having opened the door to the last of the heirs, a tense and troubled Crow took her seat next to Otis Amber. Ghost threatened. She waited for the unseen. Hey, Laurie, can we open those? Otis Amber shouted, waving at an envelope. A similar envelope lay on each table. His forehead creased with uncertainty. Ed Plum fumbled through his papers. I guess so, was his opinion. Cheers erupted as the heirs withdrew the checks. Again, Judge Ford signed her name to the $10,000 check and handed it to the doorman. Here you are, Mr. McSuthers. This should tide you over until you find another job. Sandy's heartfelt thanks were muffled by Seidel Pulaski's shh, shh, Grace Wexler mimicked, and then she dropped her head into her crossed arms on the table and fell asleep to the sound of the lawyer's throat-clearing coughs. 12th. Welcome again to the Westing House. By now you have received a second check for $10,000. Before the day is done, you might have won more, much more. Table by table, each pair will be called to give one and only one answer. The lawyer will record your response in case of a dispute. He does not know the answer. It is up to you. 1. Madame Sunlin Hu, cook, Jake Wexler, bookie. Bookie? He really must have been distracted when he signed that receipt. Jake studied the 5 clues on the table: of, America, and God above. There's those clues, finally, for our clue catcher. Even knowing his wife's clues didn't help, he'd have to gamble at a long shot. Say something, he said to his partner. Boom, said Madame Who. Ed Plum wrote, table 1, boom. 2. Flora Baumbach, dressmaker, Turtle Wexler, financier. Turtle read a prepared statement. In spite of the fact that the stock market dropped 30 points since we received our $10,000, we have increased our capital to $11,587.50, an appreciation of 27.8% calculated on an annual basis. Flora Baumbach slapped a wad of bills onto the table and 2 clinking quarters. In cash, she said. Ed Plum asked them to repeat their answer. Table 2's answer is $11,587.50. Sandy applauded. Turtle took a bow. 3. Christos Theodorakis, ornithologist. D. Denton Deer, intern. Ornithologist? His brother must have given him that fancy title when he filled in the receipt. Maybe he would become an ornithologist someday. He was a lucky person getting that medicine and all. He didn't want to accuse anybody. Not Judge Ford, Apartment 4D, not Otis, Grain, Amber, not the limper. Just about everybody limped at one time or another. Today Sandy was limping. I think Mr. Westing is a good man, Chris said aloud. I think his last wish was to do good deeds. He gave me a partner who helped me. He gave everybody the perfect partner to make friends. What is Table's 3 answer? The lawyer asked. Denton Deer replied, our answer is, Mr. Westing was a good man. 4. J.J. Ford judge, Alexander McSuthers, fired. We don't have an answer, the ex-doorman responded. As planned, the judge looked at table 3. Denton Deer, her note in his hand, shook his head, which meant no, Otis Amber has not had plastic surgery done on his face. The judge turned to table 6. Otis Amber could not be Sam Westing. She was right to have trusted him. But Crow is expecting something to happen. Crow knows she's the answer. She knows she is the one. 5. Grace Winkloppel Wexler, restaurateur. James Who, inventor. Grace raised her hand. Does somebody say Winkloppel? Never mind, Winkloppel. It's our turn, Who snarled. The lawyer got names and positions all fouled up, and I've got a drunk for a partner. He prodded Grace to her feet. Faces were swirling, the floor was swaying. Grace grabbed the edge of the floating table and gave her answer in a thick, slurred voice. The newly decorated restaurateur Husam First Eatery of Athletes holds grand opening on Sunday. Specialty day, fruit de sea bass on purple waves. Grace sat down where there wasn't a chair. Turtle gasped. Angela looked away. The airs tittered as Jake helped his wife up from the floor. What is table 5's answer, please? The lawyer pressed. Ed Plum, said Mr. Who. Yes, sir. That's our answer, Ed Plum. Oh. 6. Bertha Erica Crow, mother. Otis Amber, deliverer. Mother? Did I write mother? Crow mumbled. Is that your answer? Ed Plum asked. I don't know, Otis Amber replied. Is mother our answer, Crow? He could have sworn she had again signed the receipt, Good Salvation Soup Kitchen. Crow repeated, mother. And that's what the lawyer wrote down. 7. Doug Who, champ. Theo Theodorakis, writer. Their clues, a chemical formula for an explosive and the letters OTIS. Doug, basking in glory, didn't care. Theo stood, turned to the man he was about to accuse, and saw the scene in the soup kitchen, saw Otis Amber cooking soup for the dirty, hungry men. No answer, Theo said, sitting down. 8. Seidel Pulaski, victim. Angela Wexler, person. Seidel was dressed for the occasion in red and white stripes. Leaning on crutches decorated with white stars on a field of blue to match the cast on her ankle, she hummed into a pitch pipe and began to sing one note above the pitch she played. Oh, beautiful for spacious skies, for amber waves of grain, for purple mountain majesties above the fruited plain. What a spectacle she made, her wide rear end sticking out, singing in that tuneless nasal voice, the derisive smiles soon faded as pair by pair the heirs heard their code words sung. America, America, God shed his grace on thee, and crown thy good with brotherhood from sea to shining sea. Such beautiful song, Grace Wexler slurred, but the others sat in somber silence. Even Turtle thought Table 8 had won. What is your answer? Ed Plum asked. Our answer, Seidel Pulaski announced with certainty, is Otis Amber. The heirs listened to the lawyer read the next document, but their eyes stayed fixed on Table 8's answer, Otis Amber. 13th. Okay, folks, there will be a short break before the big winner is announced. Bertha Erica Crow, please rise and go to the kitchen for the refreshments. Dazed with fear, Crow rose. The 13th section, 13 was an unlucky number. Judge Ford told Sandy to follow her. Hey, Crow, old pal, do me a favor and fill this for me, he said, handing her his flask as they left through the door. I'll go on the wagon starting tomorrow. Promise. Angela left the room too, concerned over Crow's trance-like state. Turtle followed Angela to make sure she didn't end up in the fireworks room again. The judge remained seated, watching the remaining heirs who were watching Otis Amber. The delivery boy had had enough of their suspicions. He swept a pointed finger across their range, imitating the sounds of a machine gun. Rat-a-tat-tat-tat-tat-tat. Crow and Angela came back with 2 large trays. Turtle returned empty-handed, puzzled but much relieved. The judge joined Denton Deer and Chris at table 3, bringing a plate of small cakes with her. None of the heirs have had plastic surgery as far as I can tell, the intern remarked, but your partner sure could have used some. The judge studied Sandy McSuther's prize-fighter's face as he leaned against the open doorway. Their eyes met, and he lifted his flask in salute. Anybody want a drink? Sure, Grace Wexler replied with a giggle, but Jake gave her a cup of strong black coffee instead. We must keep our wits about us, Mr. McSuthers, Judge Ford said, walking toward him. Sam Westing has not made his final move. Nothing like scotch to clear the head, he replied. He took a long swig, coughed, and wiped his mouth on the sleeve of his uniform, and glared at Crow with narrowed, watery eyes. Theo grinned down at the chess table. White had made another move, a careless move. He licked the cake crumbs from his fingers, wiped his hand on a Westing paper tea napkin, and took his opponent's queen from the board. At least he had won the chess game. Where have we seen that move before? The queen's sacrifice. Perched on a corner of table 8, the young lawyer tried to start a conversation with Angela, ignoring Seidel Pulaski, who twice asked, Surely you must have the answer, Mr. Plum. She nudged her partner. Surely you must have the answer, Mr. Plum, Angela repeated sweetly. Oh, of course, at least I assume I do, he replied. My instructions are to open the documents one by one at the scheduled time. He checked his watch. Oops, he was 1 minute late. Ed Plum hurried to the billiard table, tore open the next envelope, and pulled out the document, cutting his finger on the paper's edge. 14th, go directly to the library. Do not pass go. Chapter 24. Wrong, All Wrong. Grace Wexler clung unsteadily to Mr. Hu's arm. Where are we going? Who knows, Hu replied. We didn't even pass go. Partner sat with partner at the long library table, moaning with impatience as Ed Plum opened another envelope, removed a tagged key, tried to unlock the top right-hand desk drawer, reread the tag, unlocked the upper left-hand drawer, and found the next document. 15th. Wrong. All answers are wrong. What? Seidel Pulaski cried. I repeat, wrong. All answers are wrong. Partnerships are canceled. You are on your own, alone. The lawyer will leave and return with the authorities at the appointed time, and time is running out. Hurry, find the name before the one who took my life takes another. Remember, it's not what you have, it's what you don't have that counts. Madame Hu knew from the shifting eyes that a bad person was in the room. She was the bad person. They would find out soon. The crutch lady had her writing book back, but all those pretty things she was going to sell, they wanted them back too. She would be punished soon. What just happened there? What did we find out? How much time do we have? Turtle asked. Ed Plum left the library without answering and locked the door. Oh my! Fleur Baumbach ran to the French doors. They opened. Phew. Seidel Pulaski complained of a chill, and the dressmaker had to shut the doors, but she left them unlatched just in case. Mr. Hu said the tea tasted funny. Maybe they had all been poisoned. Denton Deer diagnosed paranoia. The doorman, who was pacing the room, replied that anyone who was not paranoid after being told that the murderer would kill again was really crazy. He stopped to pat Turtle's slumped shoulders. "Cheer up, my friend. The game's not over yet," Sandy whispered. "You can still win. I hope you do." Otis Amber told everyone to sit where he could watch them. Theo rose. "I think it's about time we played as a team and shared our clues and shared the inheritance." "With the murderer?" "Well, all right. Agreed." Seidel Pulaski still thought the answer had something to do with America the Beautiful. "Does anybody have a clue word that is not in the song?" "I'm not sure," Doug said mischievously. "Sing it again." No one cared for that idea. "It's not what you have, it's what you don't have that counts," Jake Wexler reminded them. "Maybe some words in the song are missing from the clues?" "Well, that makes sense. Does anybody have the word amber?" Mr. Hu asked. "Not again," Otis Amber groaned. "You heard the will. It said all answers were wrong. Well, I was one of the answers." "But Mr. Westing wrote the will before the game began," Seidel argued. "Perhaps he assumed we weren't smart enough to find you out so soon." Judge Ford did not interfere. Otis Amber could take care of himself. She had to be prepared to defend Crow when the time came. Crow sat with her head bowed, waiting. No one had the word amber, but 2 pairs had am in their clues. 2 ams do not an amber make, Seidel declared. 2 ams stand for America, America. "I've got America," Jake Wexler shouted. "I've got America." Ravings of a madman, Mr. Hu thought. The podiatrist, could he be the one? Jake explained in a calmer voice. 2 ams could not stand for America, America, because one of my clues is America. Sandy stood, took a long swig from his flask, coughed, and then spoke in a hoarse voice. "We're getting nowhere. Why doesn't everybody hand their clues so Miss Pulaski can arrange them in order and we can see what's missing?" Her eyes narrowed with suspicion. The judge watched Sandy collect the clues. "Just write them out again," he said to Turtle, who had eaten the originals. Then he placed the paper squares before the secretary and resumed his seat. What was her partner doing? Why was he playing into Westing's hands? He knows the answers. He knows he's leading the heirs to Crow. Again, the judge studied the doorman's battered face, the scars, the bashed-in nose, the hard blue eyes under those taped spectacles, the baggy uniform. Everyone was given the perfect partner, Chris said. Chris was right. She was paired with the one person who could confound her plans, manipulate her moves, keep her from the truth. Her partner, Sandy McSuthers, was the only heir she had not investigated. Her partner, Sandy McSuthers, was Sam Westing. Okay, that's huge. So Sandy just moved things along because people weren't figuring out that they needed to share their clues, right? Okay. The secretary quickly arranged the clues in order. "O beautiful for spacious skies, for am waves of grain, for purple mountain majesties above fruited plain, America am, God shed his grace on thee, and in thy good with brotherhood from sea to shining sea." The missing words, Seidel Pulaski announced, are Bertha, Erica, and Crow. Bertha, Erica, Crow. Crow paled. Judge Ford stood. "May I have everyone's attention? Thank you. Please listen very carefully to what I have to say. We found the answer to Sam Westing's puzzle. Now, what are we going to do? Remember, we have no evidence of any kind against this unfortunate woman. We don't even have proof that Sam Westing was murdered. Can we accuse an innocent woman of a murder that has never been proved? Crow is our neighbor and our helper. Can we condemn her to a life of imprisonment just to satisfy our own greed? For money promised in an improbable and illegal will? If so, we are guilty of a far greater crime than the accused. Bertha Erica Crow's only crime is that her name appears in a song. Our crime would be selling, yes, I said selling for profit the life of an innocent, helpless human being." The judge paused to let her words sink in, and then she turned to her partner. Her voice hardened. "As for the master of this vicious game," she paused. What's happening to him? Sandy's hand flipped to his throat. He struggled to his feet, red-faced and gasping, and crashed to the floor in eye-bulging agony. Jake Wexler and Denton Deer hurried to his aid. Theo pounded on the door, shouting for help. Ed Plum unlocked the door, and two strange men rushed past him. One carrying a doctor's bag, quickly limped on crooked legs to the side of the writhing doorman. "I'm Dr. Sykes, everyone. Please move away." The heirs heard a low groan, and then a rasping brattle, and then nothing. "Sandy? Sandy?" Turtle screamed, pushing through the restraining hands. She looked down on the doorman sprawled at her feet. His face was twisted in rigid pain. His mouth gaped over the chipped front tooth. The taped glasses had fallen from his blue eyes that were locked in an unseeing stare. Suddenly, his body straightened in one last violent twitch. His right eye closed and then opened again, and Sandy moved no more. "He's dead," Dr. Sykes said, gently turning her away. "Dead?" Judge Ford repeated numbly. How could she have been so wrong, so very wrong? A sob tore through Turtle's soul as she ran to Baba's comforting arms. Baba, I don't want to play anymore." The second stranger, the sheriff of Weston County, herded them back to the game room. Without thinking, the heirs seated themselves at the assigned tables. Turtle sat quietly. It was Flora Baumbach's turn to weep. Crow waited. Only the throbbing veins in her tightly clasped hands told of her torment. "Excuse me, sir," Ed Plum said. "I realize this may seem inappropriate, but according to Samuel W. Westing's will, I must read another document on the hour." The sheriff checked his watch. "What kind of madhouse is this? And there's something mighty fishy about this cocky kid lawyer calling in the middle of dinner, insisting that I hurry right over. That was half an hour before anybody died." "Go ahead," he grumbled. Plum cleared his throat 3 times under the sheriff's suspicious glare. 16th. I, Samuel W. Westing of Westingtown, born Sam Windy Windclopple of Watertown. I had to change my name for business purposes. After all, who would want to buy a product called Windclopple's Toilet Tissues, would you? Do hereby declare that if no one wins, this will is null and void. So hurry, step right up and collect your prize. The lawyer will count off 5 minutes. Good luck and happy 4th of July. "Windclopple? Somebody said Windclopple," Grace Wexler slurred. "I knew Westing wasn't an immigrant's name," Seidel Pulaski said. "I knew it." "The man was insane," Denton Deer diagnosed. "Shh." They were struggling with their coincidence. Millions and millions of dollars just for naming her name. 1 minute is up. The heirs stared at the answer. Bertha Erica Crow. A religious fanatic, maybe even crazy, but a murderer? They had no evidence that Westing was murdered. The judge said so. Crow waited. She had not suffered enough for her sins. Her penance was yet to begin. 2 minutes are up. $200 million, Turtle thought, but who gets it? The last part the lawyer read wasn't very businesslike. Besides, she could never peach on anybody, not even Crow. Who cares about anything anyhow? Sandy's dead. Sandy was her friend, and now she'll never see him again. Ever. Judge Ford tried not to look at the empty chair at her table, McSuther's chair. Her one concern was the safety of Crow. The judge watched the heirs and waited. Crow waited. 3 minutes are up. Westing wasn't murdered. The judge said so. But what about Sandy? He was drinking from the flask Crow filled, and he died choking. Poison? Crow felt the eyes on her, the hating eyes. They scoffed at her beliefs. They joked about her soup kitchen. Only 2 people here mattered to her. She was so tired. Tired of waiting. 4 minutes are up. The answer is Bertha Erica Crow. "No!" Angela cried. No! "She's crazy," Otis Amber shouted. "She don't know what she's saying." "Yes, I do, Otis," Crow said flatly and repeated her statement. "The answer is Bertha Erica Crow." She rose and turned to the confused lawyer. "I am Bertha Erica Crow. I am the answer, and I am the winner. I give half of my inheritance to Otis Amber, to be used for the Good Salvation Soup Kitchen. I give the rest of the money to Angela." Chapter 25, Westing's Wake. Sandy was dead. Crow had been arrested. The 14 remaining heirs of Samuel W. Westing sat in Judge Ford's living room, wondering what had happened. "At least the guilt is not on our hands," Mr. Hu said, trying to convince himself that a clear conscience was worth $200 million. "Crow's going to jail," Otis Amber wailed, "and all you do is pat yourself on the back for not being a stoolie." "Let me remind you that Crow confessed," Seidel Pulaski reminded him. "Crow only confessed to being the answer, nothing more," Angela said, pressing her hand against the tearing pain in her cheek. "Even if Sam Westing wasn't murdered, like the judge said," Doug Hu argued, "there was nothing wrong with Sandy until he drank from the flask Crow filled." "If Crow is innocent," Theo said, "that means the murderer is still here in this room." Flora Baumbach tightened her grip on Turtle, who was nestled in her arms. "Poor Crow," Otis Amber muttered. "Poor Crow." "Poor Sandy, you should say," Turtle responded angrily. "Sandy's the one who's dead. Sandy was my friend." "You should have remembered that before you kicked him," Denton Deer remarked. "I never kicked Sandy. Never." The intern turned sideways in his chair in case of attack, but the kicker stayed slumped in sadness. "Well, someone kicked him today. That was one mean bruise he had on his shin." "That's a lie. That's a disgusting lie," Turtle shouted. "The only person I kicked today was Barney Northrup, and he deserved it. I didn't even see Sandy until tonight at the Westing house, right, Baba?" "That's right," Flora Baumbach said, handing Turtle a Westing facial tissue. The only person she kicked was Barney Northrup? Underline that." But Turtle was not about to cry again in front of everybody, like a baby. If only she could forget how he looked, suffering, dying, the twisted body, the chipped tooth, that horrible twitch, that one eye, that was the worst, that one eye blinking. Sandy used to wink at her like that when he was alive. When he was alive. Turtle blew her nose loudly to keep from sobbing. "Sandy was my friend too," Theo said. "I was playing chess with him in the game room, but he didn't know I knew." Why is everybody lying? Turtle slumped further into Flora Baumbach's arm. Sandy was her friend, not Theo's, and Sandy didn't know how to play chess. The judge, too, was surprised. "How can you be certain it was Mr. McSuthers you were playing with, Theo?" "Well, that's what partners are for. Doug watched a chess table to see who was moving the white pieces," Theo replied. Again, the track star thrust his "I'm number one" fingers high in the air. "Dumb jock," thought Mr. Hu. "Doesn't he realize that this is a wake? But he is a champ. My son's the champ." "Doug wins," said Madame Hu. They did not suspect her anymore. Good, very good. But it was so sad about the door guard. Theo went on in a mournful voice. "I'm sort of glad Sandy didn't go back to the chessboard after my last move. He never knew he lost the game." "Did you checkmate him?" the judge asked. Could she have been right about McSuthers after all? No. A disguise was one thing, but Sam Westing lose a game of chess? Never. "Well, not exactly checkmate," Thea replied, "but Sandy would have had to resign. I took his queen." The queen's sacrifice. The famous Westing trap. Judge Ford was certain now, but there were still too many unanswered questions. "I'm afraid greed got the best of you, Theo. By taking White's queen, you were tricked into opening your defense. I know. I've lost a few games that way myself." Theo recalled the position of the chessman, thankful that his skin was too dark to reveal his blushing. Turtle almost smiled. "That Theo thinks he's so smart. Well, Sandy showed him. Sandy beat him at chess." "But Sandy didn't play chess, and she never kicked him either. Bucktooth Barney Northrup was the one she kicked, not Sandy. But Sandy had the sore shin." Bucktooth, chipped tooth, the crooked false teeth in the dentist's office, Sandy's dentist. "Cheer up, my friend, the game's not over. You can still win, I hope you do." Those were the last words Sandy said to her. He winked when he said that. Winked, one eye winked. Dead Sandy winked at her. Sandy had winked! "Oh my!" Flora Baumbach exclaimed as Turtle suddenly bolted from her arms. "Angela, can I see your copy of the will?" Angela handed it over. She could not refuse her sister anything now. Turtle leaned against the dark window, poring over Seidel Pulaski's transcript of the will. "First, I returned to live among my friends and my enemies. I came home to seek my heir, aware that in doing so I faced death, and so I did." To seek my heir, Turtle replied to herself. Today I have gathered together my nearest and dearest, my 16 nieces and nephews. Sit down, Grace Windsor Wexler, to view the body of your Uncle Sam for the last time. Tomorrow its ashes will be scattered to the 4 winds. Winds? Windclopple, Turtle said aloud. Her mother had been right all along about being related to Sam Westing. Windclopple, Grace mumbled. Jake patted her head. Windclopple, the judge repeated. At last she could explain that. Crow married a man named Windclopple, who then changed his name to Westing. Bertha Erica Crow is the former wife of Samuel W. Westing. They had one child, a daughter, who drowned the night before her wedding, and it was rumored that she killed herself rather than marry a man her mother had chosen for her. If Sam Westing blamed his wife for their daughter's death, then the sole purpose of this game was to punish Crow. Crow was Sam Westing's ex-wife? The heirs found that hard to believe. Then why would Mr. Westing give her a chance to inherit the estate, Theo asked. Maybe he wanted his enemies to forgive him, Chris said. Underline that, guys. Chris is the clearest voice. Ha! Said Mr. Who, one of the enemies. Turtle read on. Second, I, Samuel W. Westing, hereby swear that I did not die of natural causes. My life was taken from me by one of you. The police are helpless. The culprit is far too cunning to be apprehended for this dastardly deed. What does dastardly mean? Oh, my! Flora Baumbach was relieved to hear Jake Wexler define the word as cowardly. I alone know the name. Now it is up to you. Cast out the sinner. Let the guilty rise and confess. Third, who among you is worthy to be the Westing heir? Help me. My soul shall roam restlessly until that one is found. For the first time since Sandy died, Turtle smiled. Judge Ford sat in glassy-eyed thought, elbows propped up on the desk top, her chin resting on her folded hands. Why indeed was Crow an heir? Sam Westing could have pointed his clues at the Sunset Tower's cleaning woman without naming an heir. Crow's not going to inherit anything, not if she's in jail for murder, Otis Amber complained bitterly. All your talk about chess and sacrificing queens, Crow's the one who's been sacrificed. What did you say? The judge asked. I said Crow's the one who's been sacrificed. Uttering a low groan, Judge Ford sank her head in her hands. The queen's sacrifice. She had fallen for it again. Westing had sacrificed his queen, Crow, distracting the players from the real game. Sam Westing was dead, but somehow or other he would make his last move. She knew it. She felt it deep in her bones. Sam Westing had won the game. Stupid, stupid, stupid. The heirs stared in amazement. First, they are all told that Samuel W. Westing was married to their cleaning woman. Now a judge is calling herself stupid? It couldn't be true. Sam Westing wasn't stupid, Denton Deer declared. He was insane. The last part of the will was sheer lunacy. Happy 4th of July, he said. This is November. It's November 15th, Otis Amber cried. It's poor Crow's birthday. Turtle looked up from the will. Crow's birthday? Sandy had bought a striped candle for his wife's birthday, a 3-hour candle. The game is still on. Sam Westing came back to seek his heir. You can win. You can still win. I hope you do, he said. How? It's not what you have, it's what you don't have that counts. Whatever it was she didn't have, she'd have to find it soon, without letting the others know what she was looking for. Judge Ford, I'd like to call my first witness. Okay, so Turtle is now cross-examining people, and she knows, and Judge Ford knows, that Sam Westing has one more move up his sleeve, that naming Crow is not actually the final part of the game. There is one more part of the game to go. Chapter 26, Turtle's Trial. Who was furious? Haven't we had enough game playing, he complained, and led by a confessed bomber no less. Judge Ford rapped for silence with the walnut gavel presented to her by associates on her appointment to a higher court. Higher court? This was the lowest court she had ever presided at. A 13-year-old lawyer, a court stenographer who records in Polish, and the judge in African robes. Oh well. She had played Sam Westing's game. Now she would play Turtle's game. The similarity was astounding. Turtle not only looked like her Uncle Sam, she acted like him. Ladies and gentlemen, Turtle began, I stand before this court to prove that Samuel W. Westing is dead and that Sandy McSuthers is dead, but Crow didn't do it. Pacing the floor, hands behind her back, she confronted each of the heirs in turn with a hard stare. The heirs stared back, not knowing if they were the jury or the accused. Grace Wexler blinked at her daughter. "Who is that?" "The district attorney," Dick replied. "Go back to sleep." Now frowning, now smiling a secret smile, Turtle acted the part of every brilliant lawyer she had seen on television who was about to win an impossible case. The only flaw in her imitation was an occasional rapid twist of her head. She liked the grown-up feeling of shorter hair swishing around her face. "Let me begin at the beginning," she began. "On September 1st, we moved into Sunset Towers. 2 months later, on Halloween, smoke was seen rising from the chimney of the deserted Westinghouse. Her first witness would be the person most likely to have watched the house that day. I call Chris Theodorakis to the stand." Chris lay a calm hand on the Bible and swore to tell the truth. "The whole truth and nothing but the truth. What fun!" "You are a bird watcher, Mr. Theodorakis, are you not?" "Yes." "Were you bird watching on October 31st? "Yes." "Did you see anyone enter the Westinghouse?" "I saw somebody who limped." Good, now she was getting somewhere. "Who was that limping person?" "It was Dr. Sykes." "Thank you. You are excused." Turtle turned to her audience. Dr. Sykes was Sam Westing's friend, a witness to the will, and his accomplice in this game. On the day in question, he limped into the Westinghouse to build a fire in the fireplace. Why? Her next witness might answer that. Judge Ford instructed the witness to remove his aviator's helmet. His gray hair was tousled but barbered, and placed your gun in the custody of the court. "Oh my!" Fleur Bombach gasped at Otis Amber unzipping his plastic jacket, pulled a revolver from his shoulder holster, and handed it to the judge, who locked the gun in her desk drawer. Turtle was as startled as the other tenants. "Mr. Amber," she began bravely, "it seems that we are not all who we say we are. In other words, who exactly are you?" "I'm a licensed private investigator." "And why are you disguised as an idiot delivery boy?" "It was my disguise." Turtle was dealing with a practiced witness. "Mr. Amber, who employed you?" "That's privileged information," the judge interceded. "It would be best to cooperate, Mr. Amber, for Crow's sake." "I had 3 clients, Samuel W. Westing, Barney Northrop, and Judge J.J. Ford." Turtle stumbled over her next question. "What were you hired to do, and when, and what did you find out? Tell us everything you know." It was unsettling to see Otis Amber act like a normal human being. 20 years ago, after his wife left him, Samuel W. Westing hired me to find Crow, keep her out of trouble, and make sure she never used the Westing name. I assumed this disguise for that purpose. I mailed in my reports and received a monthly check from the Westingtown Bank until last week, when I was notified that my services were no longer needed. But Crow still needs me, and I'll stick by her no matter what. I've grown fond of the woman. We've been together such a long time. How and why did Barney Northrop hire you? Amber is second in the phone book under private investigators. Maybe Joe Aaron's phone was busy that day. Anyhow, Barney Northrop wanted me to investigate 6 people. What 6? Judge J.J. Ford, George Theodorakis, James Hu, Gracie Winclopple, Flora Bombach, and Sybil Pulaski. I made a mistake on the last one. I wasn't aware of the mix-up until I looked into Crow's early life for the judge. It seemed I confused a Sybil Pulaski with a Seidel Pulaski. Would you please repeat that? The court stenographer asked. Seidel Pulaski, Otis Amber repeated, and then turned to the judge. I couldn't tell you about Crow's relationship to Sam Westing. Conflict of interest, you understand. Judge Ford understood very well. Sam Westing had predicted every move she would make. That's why Otis Amber, with his privileged information, was one of the heirs, and had to convince Crow, the queen, to play the game. Turtle had more questions. Are you saying that Barney Northrop didn't ask you to investigate Denton Deer or Crow or Sandy? That's right. Denton Deer turned up in my report on Gracie Winclopple, the Wexlers. Barney Northrop said he was looking to hire a cleaning woman for Sunset Towers, good pay and a small apartment, so I recommended Crow. I don't know how Sandy got the doorman's job. Mr. Amber, were you also hired by Judge Ford? I assume to find out who everybody really was. Did you investigate all 16 heirs for the judge? I didn't investigate the judge or her partner. The judge bristled at the reminder of her stupidity. Therefore, Turtle continued, you have never investigated the man we knew as Sandy McSuthers for any of your clients. Never. One more question. It was the question she had planned to ask before learning that Otis Amber was not who he seemed to be. On the afternoon of Halloween, when we were watching the smoke in the Westinghouse chimney, you told a story about a corpse on an oriental rug. I saw it! Grace Wexler cried. I saw him! Turtle forgot the rules of the court and hurried to her mother. Who did you see, Mom? Who? Terrified by the who's, Madame Who slipped away. The doorman, Grace replied, lifting her dazed face to her husband. He was dead on an oriental rug, Jake. It was awful. Jake stroked his wife's hair. I know, Gracie, I know. Turtle returned to her witness. Mr. Amber, did you tell that spooky story to dare one of us to go to the Westinghouse that night? Not really. Sandy told me the story that morning, and we decided to scare you kids with it, being Halloween. Thank you, Mr. Amber. You may step down. Step down was a term used in court. The floor was level here. Turtle turned to her baffled audience. A fire was started in the fireplace to call attention to the deserted house. Then a spooky story was told to dare someone to go into that house. That someone was me. I sneaked into the house, followed Dr. Sykes' whispers, and found the corpse of Samuel W. Westing in bed. I now call D. Denton Deer to the stand. Turtle stared at her most unfavorite air. Intern Deer, you saw the body of Samuel W. Westing in the coffin. Did he appear to have been poisoned? I could not say. He was embalmed. You are under oath, Intern Deer. Do you swear that the body of Samuel W. Westing was embalmed? What kind of a trick question was that? I can't swear to it. No, I didn't examine the body or the coffin. Could the body in the coffin which you did not examine have not been no body at all? Could it have been a wax dummy dressed in the costume of Uncle Sam? I'm not an expert on wax dummies. Yes or no? Yes, it's possible. Anything is possible. God, what's the brat driving at her? Is she just trying to make a fool of me? Intern Deer, you may not be an expert in wax dummies, but you are an expert in medical diagnosis. And did you examine the body of Sandy McSuthers, correct? Yes to the first question, no to the second. I did not examine Sandy. I tried to make him comfortable until help arrived. He was still alive when Dr. Sykes took over. Turtle turned quickly to conceal her smile. But surely you saw enough symptoms to make one of your famous diagnoses. She peered at the judge from the corner of her eye. That last word didn't sound right. Coronary thrombosis, the intern diagnosed, but that's just an educated guess. In simple language, heart attack. Then Sandy could not have died of an overdose of lemon juice, which is what I saw Crow put in his flask. Turtle could have called on Angela to testify to that, but she didn't want her screwy sister confessing all over the place. I never heard of anyone dying as a result of lemon juice consumption, the expert replied. One more question, Intern Deer. Do you swear that Sandy had a bruise on his shin resulting from a kick? Absolutely. I should know. I've been the recipient of such a kick myself. You may step down. I call Seidel Pulaski to the stand. Seidel Pulaski! Overcome with excitement, the secretary had to be helped to her feet for the oath-taking. Miss Pulaski, I must compliment you on your good thinking in taking down the will in shorthand. Professional habit. This looks professional, all right. The typing is perfect. Well, almost perfect. It seems you left out one last word in section 3. The estate is at the will. The heir who wins the windfall will be the one who finds the... Finds the what, Miss Pulaski? Finds the what? Seidel squirmed under Turtle's hard stare. Leave it to the brat to discover my one error. There was so much talking I couldn't hear the last word. Come now, Miss Pulaski, you claim to be a professional. Hounding the witness and doing it quite well, Judge Ford thought, coming to the secretary's defense. I don't think anyone heard the word turtle. Mr. McSuthers made a joke about ashes at that point. You are excused, Miss Pulaski, Turtle said offhandedly, her eyes on the will. The judge was right. Sandy had joked about ashes scattered to the winds. Winds, windy windclopple. No, it still didn't make sense. It's not what you have, it's what you don't have that counts. Maybe no word was ever there. She read on. Fourth, hail to thee, O land of opportunity. You have made me the son of poor immigrants, rich, powerful, and respected. So take stock in America, my heirs, and sing praise of this generous land. You too may strike it rich who dares to play the Westing game. Fifth, sit down, Your Honor, and read this letter this brilliant young attorney will now hand over to you. Judge Ford, could you introduce as evidence the letter that brilliant young attorney handed over to you? It's just the usual certification of sanity signed by Dr. Sykes, the judge replied as she removed the envelope from her files. But the letter was gone. The envelope now contained a receipt. I wonder who did that. Check received November 1st, $5,000. Check received November 15th, $5,000. Total amount paid by Judge Ford, $10,000. Cost of educating Josie Joe Ford, $10,000. Amount owed to Sam Westing, $0. I'm afraid the original letter has been replaced by a personal message. It has no bearing on this case, and... Yes, please. A trembling Madame Hu stood before the judge. For to go to China, she said timidly, setting a scarf-tied bundle on the desk. Weeping softly, the thief shuffled back to her seat. The judge unknotted the scarf and let the flowered silk float down around the booty. Her father's railroad watch, a pearl necklace, cufflinks, a pin and earring set, a clock. Grace Wexler's silver cross never did turn up. My pearls! Flora Baumbach exclaimed with delight. Where did you find them, Madame Hu? I'm so grateful. Madame Hu did not understand why the round little lady was smiling at her. Cautiously she peered through her fingers. Oh, the other people did not smile. They know she's bad. And Mr. Hu, his anger is drowned in shame. Perhaps stealing is not considered stealing in China, Sadao Pulaski said in a clumsy gesture of kindness. The judge rapped her gavel. Let us continue with the case on hand. Are you ready, Counselor? Yes, Your Honor. In a minute. Turtle approached the frightened thief. Here, you can keep it. With shaking hands, Madame Hu took the Mickey Mouse clock from Turtle and clutched the priceless treasure to her bosom. Thank you, good girl. Thank you. It's okay. The heirs were anxious for the trial to continue, and they pitied the poor woman, but the scene was embarrassing. 1/2 hour to go. Turtle was so close to winning she could feel it, taste it, but still the answer eluded her. Ladies and gentlemen, who was Sam Westing? She began. He was poor Windy Windclopple, the son of immigrants. He was rich Sam Westing, the head of a huge paper company. He was a happy man who played games. He was a sad man whose daughter killed herself. He was a lonely man who moved to a faraway island. He was a sick man who returned home to see his friends and relatives before he died. And he did die, but not when we thought he did. Sam Westing was still alive when the will was read. The judge rapped for order. Turtle continued. The obituary, probably phoned in to the newspaper by Westing himself, mentioned 2 interesting facts. 1, Sam Westing was never seen after his car crashed. 2, Sam Westing acted in 4th of July pageants, fooling everybody with his clever disguises. Therefore, I submit that Sam Westing was not only alive, but Sam Westing was disguised as one of his own heirs. No one would recognize him with that face bashed in from the car crash. His disguise would be simple. A baggy uniform, a chipped front tooth, broken eyeglasses. Sandy? Did she mean Sandy? The judge had to pound her gavel several times. Ladies and gentlemen, Turtle went on, Sam Westing was none other than our dear friend Sandy, the doorman. But Sam Westing did not drink, you say. Neither did Sandy. I used his flask on Halloween, and there was a funny aftertaste in my pop, but not of whiskey. I know how whiskey tastes because I used it for toothaches. It was medicine. Sandy was a sick man, and the flask was part of his disguise, but it also contained the medicine that kept him alive. Turtle surveyed her stupefied audience. Good, they bought her little fib. As I said earlier, I saw Crow fill the flask with lemon juice in the kitchen, but I saw something even more interesting on my way back to the game room. I saw Sandy coming out of the library. Sam Westing, as Sandy, wrote the last part of the will after the answers were given, then locked it in the library desk with a duplicate key. But what about the murder, you ask? Turtle said, even though no one had asked. There was no murder. The word murder was first mentioned by Sandy to put us off the track. I did not die of natural causes, the will says. My life was taken from me by one of you. Sam Westing's life was taken from him when he became Sandy McSuthers, and Sandy died when his medicine ran out. Turtle paused in a pretense of letting the heirs mull over her last words, trying to figure out what to do next. Why did Turtle leave out Barney Northrop, the judge wondered. She knows Northrop and McSuthers were the same man because of the bruised shin. Either she doesn't want to confound the jury, or she has no more idea than I have why Sam Westing had to play 2 roles. Why did Sam Westing have to play 2 roles, Turtle wondered. He had a big enough part as the doorman without playing the real estate man as well. Why 2 roles? No, not 2. 3. Wendy Winclop took 3 names. 1. Samuel W. Westing. 2. Barney Northrup. 3. Sandy McSuthers. The judge had a question. Surely Mr. McSuthers could have had his prescription refilled. Are you implying he committed suicide? Pardon me? Turtle was searching for the will. The estate is at the crossroads. The heir who wins the windfall will be the one who finds the 4th. That's it. That has to be it. The heir who wins the windfall will be the one who finds the 4th. Wendy Winclopple took 4 names. She knew who the 4th one was. Keep calm, Turtle. Alice Tabitha Ruth Wexler slowly, very slowly, turned toward the judge. Act dumb. Ask her to repeat the question. I'm sorry, Your Honor. Would you repeat the question? Turtle knows something. The judge had seen that expression before. Sam Westing used to look like that before he won a game. I asked you to consider Sandy's death as suicide. No, ma'am, Turtle said sadly, very sadly. Sandy McSuthers, Sam Westing, suffered terribly from a fatal disease. He was a dying man who chose his time to die. Let me read from the will. 6th, before you proceed to the game room, there will be 1 minute of silent prayer for your good old Uncle Sam. Ladies and gentlemen, heirs, for we all inherited something, let us bow our heads in silent prayer for our benefactor, Sam Westing, alias Sandy the Doorman. Crow! Otis Amber leapt to his feet as Ed Plum led the cleaning woman through the door. Whoa. Let's talk about that next time I see you.